I'd like to introduce one of my esteemed co-workers. Stand still, Mark. There we go. I've known Mark for 2 or 3 years, and absolutely super guy. He's actually part of a creativity, innovation, and technology panel of perspectives. There are 4 other people sitting here. Christina Munn, IT Director of SGSU Library. Cindy Beer, Assistant Professor English, SGSU. James Morgan, Art and Art History, Lecturer at SGSU. And Rick Keppel, Global Innovator and Leadership Lecturer, School of Management at SGSU. I'm going to hand over to Mark so he can make a start and I can have some lunch.
I heard the people here want a revolution. Am I wrong? Okay. Sorry, wrong group. I speak at so many different events that I... Thank you so much for coming in your very, very precious time. As Mike said, my name is Mark Adams, and I'm an instructional developer at the eCampus of San Jose State. I actually started working with San Jose State almost 20 years ago. When the eCampus first began with its first group, I was the faculty trainer for the first group of occupational therapy instructors who were going to teach online. Since then, we've gone through 4 different LMSs, starting with WebEx, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, and now Canvas. So I'm definitely a veteran. Today we are really, it's a real honor and a privilege for me to be moderating a panel with 4 of San Jose State's top thought leaders. And these are people who are leaders in their fields and in helping us move forward in terms of creativity, innovation, and technology, which is the title of our panel. So just to kind of elaborate a little bit, Professor Cindy Beer is the Assistant Writing Program Administrator in charge of the Stretch English program. And she was awarded the San Jose State Outstanding Lecturer Award in 2015. This year, she is working to build an archive of student writing that captures portfolios produced in Canvas, our LMS, for future research. And her quote, which I love, is, "I give my students Play-Doh because I want them to return to the joys of craft, of shaping matter into form. I want them to play with words like a fistful of dough." Now, she could have said fistful of dollars, but a fistful of dough. I love that. And so she is really doing some incredible work to address one of our very difficult issues of getting everybody up to speed. Language is the first doorway into being able to succeed at a university, and she has some innovative things to talk about. Our second panelist is Professor Richard Keppel, and he teaches operations management and organizational behavior in the School of Management and Lucas School of Business. He has expertise in engineering management and engineering physics. His resume includes executive-level intra and entrepreneurship in startups across multiple technologies, and he's experimented with various pedagogies in order to make this really exciting and to be able to work with larger classes and still find that what we like to call high touch in high tech. And so he's experimented with hybrid, online, mobile, and flipped classroom pedagogies, which he's going to talk about. Variety of tools. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to hear, again, from a different perspective, business perspective. James Morgan is an artist, curator, educator, and a researcher. He designs curriculum in the areas of computer graphics, web development, programming and physical computing, 3D printing, fabrication, prototyping, interactivity, and computer games. He's shown work nationally at the Laguna Art Museum and internationally at the European Media Art Festival. He teaches digital media art here at San Jose State and is a director of Ars Virtua, and that is described as a new type of space that leverages the tension between 3D rendered game space and terrestrial reality, between simulated and simulation. His work involves social interaction, coded culture, and democratic structures in game spaces and simulations. Christina Mune, we are lucky to have today, spared some time for us. She is the Information Technology Services Director for the University Library, the world-famous, world-renowned Martin Luther King Jr. Library. That is one of the original, one of the finest examples of public and private library partnerships in the world. She works with her team to promote information discovery and access, experiment with technology integration into formal and informal learning spaces, and to build digital literacy opportunities for San Jose State students. She's worked in a variety of roles at San Jose State as a digital initiatives librarian, a faculty technology trainer, and a coordinator of SJSU's open access initiative, the Affordable Learning Solutions. Christina believes information wants to be free. I'm going to be asking you about that. How many of you think like that? Got one of those rabble-rousers. And she sees emerging technologies and academic libraries as excellent tools to engage our entire community in research and knowledge sharing. So I'm going to start with you, Christina. Would you share your approach to our very large topic and kind of narrow it down to how do you encourage creativity and innovation using the technology at the library?
Sure, yeah. I'm going to take it off. I'm just going to take it off. This question is an awesome question. And I think many people don't know that the library's actually been thinking about this for over a decade. Oftentimes we frame it as how to turn our community, so in this case, all SJSU, from content consumers to content creators. What can the library provide in the terms of resources and tools and services to help people become really dynamic content creators and content sharers? Because in the new kind of digital society, content creation and sharing is almost like a form of currency, and definitely can be really impactful, right? So because San Jose Library has so many stakeholders, so we have faculty and staff and students, we have multiple approaches to that. For students, we actually try to integrate technology into their learning environments. We have a whole floor on the library, the 4th floor, Spartan floor, where we've created an environment where students study and work with technology kind of seamlessly. So there's Mediascapes where multiple people plug in their laptops and anyone can share their screen, and students work on projects and presentations and code and things like that together using these screens that are just part of the study area. We have lounge areas where there's touch-top tables where people can throw up images and media clips and touch them and move them together and change them. We have a creative media lab with really high-end audio and video editing stations so that we can provide the tools you need to create like YouTube videos or podcasts. So students have a lot of tools and options. We also have student computing services, which checks out for free to students, not just laptops and iPads and Surfaces, but also Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and Makey-Makeys. And these are like invention kits that can help you build anything from like robots to making a banana into a keyboard, right? So we have these tools that students can tap into at no cost to them anytime they want to. But we realize that providing the tools and resources is not really enough because people don't know how to use them, right? So we also have a student technology training center. So we have a dedicated student technology trainer who will sit one-on-one with any student and actually any staff or faculty member and show them how to use these tools, get them to to the point where they're actually making the content and show them how to share it in different platforms in different ways. And we also try to bring students in as peer mentors so that they learn not just how to use these, but how to teach other people to use them and build upon that knowledge. Once they leave the university, they'll still be building that future of technology because they're learning to teach other people in our library. And one of the things they teach each other to do is actually use the 3D printer, which we have one on our library table here, so that if you have an idea about a new chair or a biomedical device, you can actually render it in 3D in the library at no cost to you, so that you can kind of bring that idea into even physical reality, not just digital reality, but physical reality. And we have a lot of things for faculty too. So the library's always been really good at providing access to the scholarly record and resources like articles and books to promote, your research. But what we want to do is have your research and your creative products available to everyone also, right? We want to help you share in the best way possible. And the library thinks that open access is the way to do that. So we actually have an institutional repository where we will help you get up like your preprints or your graphics or your movies or your data sets and put them up on our IR so that other people can access it using Google or Google Scholar outside of a paywall. And that's actually really successful. We have almost 700,000 downloads a year of the material that's already been put up there. Oh, Mark, already? So anyway, we have that, and we also have affordable learning solutions. So you want to find or make open access textbooks or open educational resources, which are small digital resources that address 1 or 2 learning objectives. You want to make those. We have expertise to make that in the library and platforms to help you publish those things. So we're just trying to be that tool and that resource that everyone here can use to become the content creators that I think is part of being creative and innovative with technology.
I think that's fabulous. Wow. So, Christina, it sounds like you're trying to take our jobs from us at San Jose State and instead transfer them to the library. And do you see the library, this is actually a serious question now. Do you see the library as perhaps becoming the new university of the 21st century where people have such incredible access to things like Google and all these different resources, and of course with your help guiding them as facilitators, which as instructors we're often told is the model of how we should teach now. Do you see the library as supplanting the traditional university in a cost-effective way?
Dang, Mark, no. I think we're actually there as like that, like I said, to take them to the next level. So you may have only a certain amount of time in your class to teach them what they need to do or show them what they need to do to steer them to the right place. And then we need to provide that extra support to get them to the next thing where they're making it, where they're finding those final resources to maybe make that research paper their own, where they're getting that final technology training, that kind of shine on the knowledge that they already have. So we're there to build on the foundation that you guys are creating in your classes. But we do provide lifelong learning opportunities, and I think that's part of that joint San Jose Public and San Jose State situation. So even after the students are long out of your classes and have their degrees, they can come back to the library and continue to utilize some of the resources that they learned to use when they were here and learn forever and continue to be content creators.
So the answer is no. Okay,
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. All right, our next presenter is an incredible artist and curator, and I would like to ask you that same question, James. How do you encourage creativity? It must be very difficult teaching digital art and things like that.
So I'd like to pick up where Christina left off, which is to say that my classes are directly benefiting from the technology and the sort of innovation that the library is putting forward. And it's always really useful and interesting to see that you guys are like actually pushing the boundaries of it, and you're actually anticipating the things that I need for my students. And so I've actually got a couple of things I've got to refer to my students based on what you just said. So I've been working with technology and in the technology space for a while. I've been working with the incubator classroom, the high-tech the classroom here on campus, both as a faculty member teaching in the classroom and then as also like a faculty in residence to help other faculty be able to adopt the technologies and work with them in the space. Also, I've been doing work with the Adobe Suite, teaching workshops, which you should check the eCampus website to see these workshops because they're free. They're free for staff, faculty, as well as students. And then my personal passion at the school is game design and game development. It's one of the spaces that I see that we have an opportunity to actually really engage and work with the tools and the technologies. And to that end, I would say probably the most effective and interesting thing that I've seen is the Game Development Club. And when we talk about like sort of the future of education or effective education, it's really amazing to see a group of people come together in a space on their own time, in addition to their own busy schedules, because they care about something. So it's been, for me, it's been about like trying to make sure that these folks are really supported well in terms of what it is that they need, sort of anticipating their needs, and then providing like instruction, providing like workshops, but also then providing facilities and opportunities based on it. The classes that I teach have a tendency to be very project-based, and we like focus on this idea of iterating through development, where it's like you create something, you put it out, you look at it, analyze it, and then you go back and you revise it. And this probably sounds familiar to most of the people who've done any kind of a project before, but these sorts of skills take a lot of practice. Take a lot of practice to sort of like get them into your head and to realize that they do function well. Let's see. I don't know. I think I'm going to cut it off there, Mark.
Okay. In the background, by the way, I was showing the Cadre website and the other.
I couldn't tell. Everybody was like so staring up there. I was like, I'm like, whoa.
Really nice stuff. You had talked also about how you're working with faculty this summer on a program to apply game development to curriculum building in various disciplines.
Yeah, so the CSU has a summer arts program, and I'm going to be teaching a class in summer of 2017. What we're doing is we're recruiting faculty members who have problems, whether it's a problem with education or with a problem with student understanding. And what we're going to try to do is build some small game prototypes around them and then give these prototypes back to the faculty members then. So we're in the process of just gearing this up. This isn't going to happen until like June, July of 2017. Students are welcome to apply. We're going to be like creating like a portfolio process to get students into the course so that we have a reasonable chance of success at creating these games. But we should be launching probably the call for faculty within like the next month or so.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next, Richard Kepp. Oh yeah, let's give him a round of applause. You know, we so seldom get that, so it's very nice to have. Thank you, James. Our next presenter is Professor Rick Keppel, and I've known Rick for many, many years as an incredible innovator. He and I worked on the Pakistan Distance Education Enhancement Project, and he was helping establish an organizational structure for them and talking about creativity. I also, by the way, worked with Christina Mooney, who gave them a fantastic workshop on OER, which is the future of education around the world. So, Professor Rick Keppel.
Probably the reason why I'm here is what I'm going to try to do is explain to you a project that I started back in the fall of 2011. And what it encompassed was all the elements we are going to talk about today. Creativity, innovation, collaboration, and the use of technology to enhance all that. So let me explain briefly what the project was and what we did and some of the travails along the way and the lessons learned. In brief, fall of 2011, I was asked as part of the undergraduate curriculum enhancement program in the College of Business to take a look at what we call Business 10, or essentially Business 101. The idea at the time was to try to convert that to a required first semester freshman business student sort of boot camp. The idea being is if we can give business students the necessary skills and awareness of themselves so that when they get into the business school, they're ready to go. So it really was a boot camp. And so the idea being is that not only we want to do that, but we wanted to do is scale it from the standard 40, 45 students per class to perhaps 240 to maybe 400 students at a time. So the challenges were a lot in terms of looking at how we wanted to do it and how do we wanted to make it progress. So basically, long story short, spring of 2012, I did a bunch of research, looked at what was the current state of the art in terms of hybrid flipped classrooms. I looked at the state of the art in terms of what learning technology was and how people learned around the world. For instance, I looked at University of Netherlands and some of the horizontal work they'd done, or longitudinal work, done in terms of their college, in terms of what was successful in terms of educational pedagogies, and then basically wrapped it under a hybrid sort of mantra. And in doing so, we're able to garner the provost support to go to actually do custom videos of each and every chapter. Because if you know, in a hybrid model, the idea being is that you take the content of the course, you videotape it, and you put it online so that students look at it online before coming to class. And in this structure, then when they come to class, what you do are group projects to be able to take this information and deepen that learning experience. So that's really what we were trying to do with this. But not only do that within the context of 40 to 45, but in the context of 240 to maybe 400 students at a time, and still have only one instructor and no TAs. So there's quite a lot of challenges there. So in a sense, is what we did was take advantage of the learning management systems. The fact that learning management systems, whether it's Desire to Learn or Canvas, allows you to do what I call a locked link sort of approach in terms of delivering content in a timed manner to students. And in doing so, before every class, the standard operating procedure was students would read the book, sure, right. Then they would have to take a quiz or look at the PowerPoint, which I could tell they looked online, and then they had to take a 10-minute, 10-question quiz. And that all had to be done before the start of class. So that what we're trying to do is make sure that when students came to class in their teams and did projects, they all came prepared. So that was part of the challenge, of course, because as you can imagine, many students who are incoming freshmen don't have that on-time skill set yet developed, right? So it takes them a couple of weeks to saddle up. But that was part of the skills that we wanted to also give our freshman students, is what is the meaning of on time. So we did this 21 times for 21 chapters in this semester. And as time went on, more and more students got that message. So we did that process, but as we got further into it, we had to adjust then the team processes, because what I did is form teams of 6 people each. No more, no less. And then in doing so, we did team projects throughout the semester. And at the very end of the semester, we did a culminating team project, is asking our incoming freshmen to develop their own startup business plan and to present it to the rest of the class. Now, I don't know about you, but thinking as a freshman and your experience with business, how well can you start up a business plan starting as a freshman, a college freshman? It's kind of challenging, right? So what I did was, to help them go through that process, I use extensive use of templating. What I mean by templating is that since I did a lot of startups and did my own business plans throughout many of these, what I essentially did is I assigned each one of the 6 students to a role: CEO, CFO, Vice President of Engineering, Human Resources, etc. And each one of those students then had a particular set of questions that were unique to them that they had to answer as part of this team. And oh, by the way, to answer that question, they had to work with all the other members of the team to get their question answered. So it had that forced collaboration model that we want to get into the team process. And then, of course, them having to present was another factor, giving them practice of presentation, which is part of the skills. So that was kind of the basics of what we were trying to do. The outcome of this was, of course, there were some technological hurdles to get over with. Thank you. And after the first semester, what we did was we had, to give you sort of the complexity of when we first initiated it in the fall of 2012, We didn't go half at it, we went full at it, because what we did is we had 7 different sections that we both did, the hybrid and the standard, and then did a compare contrast statistically of the test results throughout the entire semester. What we found was that the average test score improvements of the hybrid was 5 to 10% per test, all the way through each test and including the final. Statistically, however, to a 95% probability, we could say statistically it was no worse than in class, full lecture style. So adding all this technology in did no harm, which was really an important piece for us. It allowed us to scale up to 240 students. 240 students means 40 6-person teams, and be able to still manage that and hold those gains. So I taught the teams, not the individuals. Get that message? I taught the teams, not individuals. And that was the big difference in that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
As a start.
You know, these guys describe the work that they've done in 5 minutes. But you think about what it took to actually do this. You know, I'm going to say courage because of the possibility of failure and also the resistance. Anybody who's ever tried a new pedagogy knows, and especially with freshmen who potentially are used to a very different way of teaching and very different expectations. And given the fact that we have to fill out the SOTs, we have to make sure that we're getting positive reviews as instructors, the easiest thing to do is just whatever has been done. It's the thing that will usually allow you to not cause a lot of problems. But the question, I think, that's kind of over us all here about this, creativity, innovation, and technology for what? What purpose? Just on its own? Are we just massive consumers of technology? Or do we have some kind of a requirement to find ways of reducing the cost of education with technology while maintaining the quality so that we can expand the access? This was the promise 20 years ago, back when I started, and even before that, when Abe Lincoln and I sat with our charcoal but a long time ago, we thought this was going to really reduce having technology in the classroom. Yet our students are graduating with higher and higher amounts of student debt. So every minute is important. Every second is important. And that's what these educators, these thought leaders have been attempting to do, to find what is the sweet spot in which you're utilizing the moments, every moment, but you're not rushing things. And this last point is something why I saved Cindy. I wanted you to talk now about your stretch program and the fact that simultaneously to going faster, because people want to graduate in 4 years, they have to have the skills right from the start to be able to do that. And sometimes it might not happen in 4 years. So anyway, Cindy, please.
Hi. So the Stretch English program, I'm going to back up and do just a little background on that. I think most of you are aware that when students come to San Jose State, they have writing requirements for their general education. The first one is English 1A, and typically that has been called just college writing course, and you had to qualify to get into it. You took an English placement test, and if you didn't score high enough on the English placement test, you're designated remedial in English, and you had to take remedial English courses. At San Jose State, that meant that anywhere, depending on the year, from 30 to 45% of our students had to take remedial classes before they could start earning college credit in English. And so we, under the pressure of a budget crunch, were asked to begin to rethink these issues, and not just the budget crunch, but also the attempt to get unit loads down to 120 for the degree. Nationally, Stretch English had been done since 1996 at Arizona State University, and had been piloted in several CSUs. So we adopted it here. What it allows students to do is to opt into college English depending on their own assessment of themselves rather than their test scores. We use a directed self-placement exercise to allow them to do that in a guided and meaningful way. And so over the summer, I led, I and several faculty members led 2,845 students through their first directed self-placement into a college writing course. So these students are not going into a remedial class, they're going into college English, but what the stretch involves is that they are now doing college writing. If they've chosen stretch, they're doing the college writing course, earning 6 units over fall and spring. One of the first in fall is a credit, no credit course. In spring, it's a graded course, and it's the one that earns them the graduation credit. Students are successful, and it has required an enormous change in pedagogy to allow students that kind of access. In other words, we started doing at the same time, and this is all through technology. Everything that I'm talking about is possible only with technology. I surveyed every incoming freshman to find out their language backgrounds. 76% of our students are multilingual. Yes, that means only 24% of our students come from a household where English is the only language spoken. You could look at that, and I think people have in the past looked at that as some kind of deficit, some kind of problem to be solved. And I think what we in the English department are starting to see is that that is an enormous opportunity to prepare our students going forward to be part of a global community where, in fact, you have to be aware not of English, but of Englishes, and of the ways in which people can share across language boundaries that they may have. And in a class where, 5 of the students have been in the country for a month, and or maybe even some days, and they've just come from China or Japan or Denmark, and they don't have a lot of English. Stretch is a classroom where they can come together and learn to speak across those language boundaries. And there are lots of ways in which technology plays a role there. What you were talking about is students preparing themselves before class. The multilingual students who might feel a little bit behind if they have to try to get everything in the moment of speaking, as you're doing right now, they might feel a little more comfortable if they came in feeling a little more in contact with the material themselves. And so when you ask them to do a reading, you also ask them to type something into Canvas about what they've read, answering perhaps a specific question, and then reading other people's posts and commenting on 2 other people's posts, so that when they come to class, they've already brought something to the table. It makes them feel like they have a contribution to make. Another project that I've discovered because of Canvas is that students are now turning papers into me electronically, which means that a lot of the work that's being done in the field of writing around multimodal composition that takes advantage of the digital affordances and allows students to use sound along with words and imagery along with words, and to embed links to other texts. It allows those students who may have a lot to say but not a lot of language to deliver it in, to still get their message across. I'm sure you remember, I remember Latin, being asked to write a composition about great men, and I was trying to write about Ronald Reagan, and believe me, I had things to say about Ronald. So, but I couldn't say them in my Latin, right? So I write this little dinky essay when I could have written, a massive text. So I think it allows students to feel like they have the more of an ability to express themselves.
Thank you very much. 2,800. That's amazing. Okay, I have a question for you now. I don't know if you've seen our website at the eCampus and know about us. How many of you have visited the eCampus website? Show of hands. There's a $100 not available for that, but I was just going to see if there was any additional ones. Okay, here we go. So I just wanted to show you just briefly what San Jose State offers. San Jose State, in terms of technology, academic technology, first of all, we've got great leadership. The director of the eCampus, Jennifer Red, and let's give a big round of applause, and the Director of Academic Technologies, Chris Laxton, wherever Chris is. Great job. And our team over there, these are the ones that we support. Canvas, which more than 30,000 students are enrolled in and using. WebEx, which is a web conferencing. Camtasia, a video capturing. Qualtrics, a survey tool. Clickers, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second. Blackboard Collaborate, which is a second tool of web conferencing. And Collaboration, which is the name of our expo, at least that name is in there. Criterion, which is an automated English system. Cindy, what do you think of Criterion?
No, dear. No, I did a report on it. It's the algorithm is not quite there yet to do anything other than be an editing tool for students, but a very late stage editing tool.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Here, unlike so many parts of society, differences are celebrated. Differences of opinion, various viewpoints. We have to fight for this, though. We have to make sure that we honor that. And so I'm very glad. Cindy, you say whatever you damn well want.
And I will.
I'll support you. Mathematica is a great tool for mathematicians, and Turnitin, which is called a plagiarism tool, but actually I look at it as a way of teaching how to do attribution. It's a great way to find out where things came from and being able to identify it rather than a gotcha. Respondus, which is a way of locking a browser in for all of the multiple choice exams that people have. Portfolium, which is a new tool for developing a portfolio that you would use out into your employment days, showing your prospective employers. ProctorU, so I'll not go into that. ARC is a new one, which is a mapping. We have an incredible GIS mapping tool, and of course iTunes, so you can listen to all of your favorite music as often as you want. And I want to ask you a question. Do we have the right technologies to foster creativity and innovation? And I'm going to say in the courses that you teach or take, because there's some students here. How many students? Great. So just translate that into the courses that you take. Do you have the right technologies that you feel to optimize your creativity and innovation and ability to learn? How many people think that you have the right technologies and sufficient technologies? Raise your hands. Let's just have a show of hands. Okay. And how many people feel that it's not sufficient technologies, that you need more? And what might they be, sir? What technology do you feel we might potentially need?
I would say, like, for one of my courses, it would really help out, like, if you can interact with, like, pictures, like, in my biology class, like, in a way, clicking on the definition of a diagram or something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Does your instructor use a biology website that has that functionality?
No,
No.
just
Okay.
PowerPoints.
Okay. Yes.
Can I help with that a little bit?
Yeah.
Depending upon the publisher, I have a publisher that we have an external website from them where they actually use linked stuff like you're talking about. It takes you the materials out, which give you additional information. Now, it's a publisher site, not necessarily ours, but it's something that I've integrated into one of my courses because many people, I don't know if this is where you're coming from, but many people learn not just through reading, they learn through the visual aspects of information. And if you're more visually oriented versus kinesthetic, which is the Play-Doh version of that, then it really is helpful to connect visually to diagrams, charts, and stuff to the information. So that gives us a multi sort of mode way of giving you information to help connect with the information we're trying to have you learn. So there are ways of doing that, but today it's not a standard per se, because it does require some external stuff, but it's available in certain courses is my partial answer to your very good question.
Great. And the gentleman right in front here, you also said there was something that you thought we could potentially use?
I just think that I wish there was a technology that would allow students and teachers to influence the curriculum a lot more than what it is currently. I kind of find that, like, well, I'm a psychology student myself, and I'm part of a research lab for my professor, but I feel like other areas, other majors in this campus don't have that opportunity to maybe have extracurricular learning experiences about their industry.
Extracurricular learning activities in their industry through technology?
Yeah.
Like
research
web
labs
conferences,
and
like
stuff
web
that.
conferences, for instance, or like bringing in
Web
top
conferences
psychologists
would
in
be
your
an
field?
aspect of that.
Sorry?
So I would say that web conferences would be a aspect of that, but there's a lot of things that professors do outside of their classes and stuff like that that I think are wonderful learning experiences, and students don't really know those opportunities.
That's interesting. You know, you bring up a good point, and that's that not all technology has to do with computers, and not all technology has to do with machines. In fact, there's... I'll keep it short. The use of things like mindfulness meditation is being applied by Professor Rick Keppel and perhaps other people to help people calm prior to starting out. That's actually a technology. If you look up the definition of it, it's a process that we use in order to increase our efficiencies, and in this case, the efficiency of learning. So there's great kinds of contributions that you can make, your field, psychology. Yes, Cindy.
To build, one of the ones that I'm hoping to build with that archive that he was talking about with student writing is if I can archive student writing at San Jose State, then that archive can become a place where students and faculty members can work together to research student writing and to learn from student writing itself how to be better writers as students at San Jose State. So if you wanted to know something about what are the basic moves that work as introductory strategies, you could go into the archive with your instructor and work. So it would be a way of creating the lab environment that you're talking about, which writing classes haven't had before. They could have them now because of digital archives.
Thank you so much. You know, I said when we got this initial kind of a slot, I would love to have a much longer slot because we have just started to get into some really interesting topics. So before I close out, I just want to say, I want to put in a plug for one additional thing, and that is the lens of sustainable development. For the last 3.5 years, I was working on a grant in Pakistan, as many of you know, to develop education. The thing that I've learned, not just from that experience, but from the experience of being in the CSU system for more than 20 years, is that the rubric that we must begin to adopt is of sustainable development, not just sustainability in an environmental sense, but a systems approach to sustainability. This is an age of sustainable development, meaning in healthcare, in employment, in governance, in education. We have to reduce the cost of education. We have to increase the access, and we can do it through technology. That can be done. And so I'm hopeful that expos like these at some point will investigate those more thoroughly, because those are the things that are going to address the challenges that we face, which are overwhelming. The thing I don't sense at San Jose State is a sense of urgency. No urgency about any of the problems. Climate change, there's things going on, but not a lot of urgency. And in my opinion, the university, which has all the domains of knowledge, they are the places that need to provide the leadership for us to have a sustainable world. So as you see the news headlines come on about water, about wars started over water and all these things, keep in mind that the university is a great place for us to start working on these issues. It's beautiful things for students to work on, and actually a great source of jobs for the future in the green technology field. So with that little prayer, I want to thank our wonderful guests, Christina Mune, James Morgan, Rick Keppel, and Cindy Bear. Let's give them a great round of applause.